today's pod is about problem solving with Team Delaney. We are here, aren't we, Callum, to help both buyers and sellers.
Yeah, so if you're buying or selling, you generally want a problem to be solved.
Yeah, so let's start with the first one, which would be those first home buyers. You know, it's a tough gig for them out there in the market.
Yep.
So how can we help first home buyers get on the property ladder?
So their problem is that they're not on the ladder, and
Yep.
we're trying to get them on the ladder.
Yeah.
Because then they can go from there, and then they become sellers later on.
Yep. So this is helping a buyer
That's
rather
correct.
than a seller. You know,
Yep.
so we do both things. So from a first home buyer situation, how do we help them?
So we help them by understanding the process. So hopefully this pod is helping them understand the lingo, the terminology around buying and selling, the process, deposits, all of those sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
So we get them to understand the transaction first. Then we get them to understand the help that they need. So this helps from solicitors, mortgage brokers, how to get finance, and then how to put your best foot forward when making an offer.
I was going to say making an offer, yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And how we can help them, say, be an investor when they're putting an offer in. How do they make their offer more attractive to the vendor?
Yeah.
How can they win in a competitive situation?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's all good stuff. I mean, and we've helped a number of first home buyers get into the market. It's a satisfying feeling, you know, seeing their or hearing their joy. Sometimes they break down in tears on the phone. It's a pretty cool.
It's very cool.
It's very cool. And look, we've recently sold your property, and we sold that to some first home buyers. So it was really, really cool to help them into the market because they missed out on 4 or 5
They'd
properties.
missed out 4 or 5, then
Yep.
they come across us at other homes that we're selling and
Yes.
let us know that, they've missed out. And we sort of delved into their issue and sort of going, look, you're making it harder for yourself by having conditions that are longer than they need to be,
Yep.
by not doing a bit of homework before you put the offer in. So they managed to clean up their offer, and when they actually ended up buying our house, they had a nice clean offer. They had done some building research, some council file research. They had gone over things with their solicitor. They had pre-approved finance, and they were able to put in the best offer, the most money, and the cleanest conditions, and now they're on the market.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it?
It's great.
Great. I guess the next group of people that we help often are people that are relocating.
Yep.
You know, they've been headhunted for a job, they're moving town because of schools. We see it often. Talk to me. This is a seller this time around. How
Yep.
do we help them?
So often they're in a position where their motivation is probably higher than most to actually sell. So they're often the most realistic buyers. They're sellers. So
Yes.
ready to listen to your advice.
Yeah.
And they'll pitch the property at a level to the market where we know it's going to sell in a good time frame, because they're starting their job and they're moving.
They've got
Their
to go.
family's already on the move.
Yeah.
Often it's just the husband or the wife left behind to get the job done and get the property sold.
It's a very stressful time for
Yes.
those families or even those couples at that time because they need the job done both properly but efficiently and still achieve an acceptable price.
Yep.
They don't just want to give their properties away because they're going to have to buy something wherever they go.
They might be going to Auckland where it's double the price.
Yeah, exactly. So we come in, we go through the process as we do, and then take all that stress away.
Yep.
We just tell people, look, we will only communicate with you when you want to be communicated with. We don't want to bother you with stuff you don't need to bother about. We'll take care of this. 9 times out of 10, we get a nice quick result with a satisfactory sale, and those people move on to their new lives happy and tell all their friends that if they're ever doing anything, to give Team Delaney a call.
Yep. And we'll also refer them to our New Zealand Realtors partners and those other centres, so Christchurch, Wellington, Auckland. We'll refer them to a trusted agent up there who can then look for a property for them that will suit the budget and needs of them as well.
You're dead right. So it doesn't matter where people are moving to, our network can help find them a property while we're selling their property here. So it's good. Next one on. Unfortunately, it's probably a little bit more darker stuff, really, to be fair, is dealing with unfortunate deaths, divorces, separations. That's not the most pleasant things that we deal with, but we deal with it on a number of occasions. And, we pride ourselves on being, honest and upfront in those situations as well, because it's not easy when families are dealing with, all those situations, especially, an unplanned death, if you like. It's an emotional time for all, but things need to be done. So talk a little bit more how we help in that situation.
So in a death situation, sometimes it might be forced upon having to pay a mortgage with one income, or they just don't want to be in that house anymore. Or maybe that person passed away a number of years ago and it's too big to maintain for one person, so we're trying to get them into a home where they can cope with it on their own. So we're just trying to solve that problem for removing them from that property and giving them enough money to be able to buy the home that they then
And we also help them, don't we, find their next home, because there's one thing selling, but it's such an emotional thing. Normally if it's been a unfortunate death, there's been a lot of emotional tie to that property. So to leave it behind is not easy for that person, so we need to make it as seamless as possible to help them into a new property.
Deal delicately with it.
Yeah, very delicate process.
And then there's obviously the divorce part, so we're often called in. We're probably the last thing that happens during that process, so they've dealt with all the other parts of it, and then they need to sell the house to separate the financial ties. And that can be one of the most difficult situations, because obviously people sometimes don't get along and it's hard to get agreement on certain things, but the idea is to try and solve the problem and deal fairly with both partners.
That's the key.
That's the key.
The key is making sure that both parties are seen to be having the same communication. And not favouring one or the other, because that just causes problems. So in our experience, we know that all communication in a separation or divorce needs to be done in writing, whether that's a text message or an email, so everyone's getting exactly the same message, and then we don't get tied to one or the other party.
Not getting involved in the emotional part of it. If one of them's having a crack through you at the other one, you just got to be poker face and be professional and deal with the numbers and figures and give sound advice on that transaction.
Not the most fun part of our job, but it's part of our job.
But it's problem solving. The other one that's quite good on a positive note
let's go positive again.
Is marriage. So sometimes you'll have...
Are you getting married soon, I hear?
Not apparently, no. I was waiting. It's been a good 3 hours and you haven't brought it up. You've got two people and they both own homes individually on their own, and they've got married or they're getting married, they decided to buy together. So sometimes we get the privilege of selling both of those homes and then selling them
a new home.
So that's quite cool. We're trying to bring those two, they could be families or they could be individuals together, and that's a very cool transaction, especially when you've got all three properties.
It's cool.
So that's a problem we're solving. Bring them together.
I love that part of our job. When you can get that type of transaction going. Just the smiles and the laughter, and you actually create friends through those transactions as well. It's really good fun.
It's quite cool. Mortgage. So this is probably more common at the moment, where they've got a financial problem where either they've lost a job or their income's decreased, or one's had a baby and they can't work, and suddenly their mortgage rates have gone up and they can't afford to stay where they are. Well, they can, but it's stressful. The problem we're trying to solve is to decrease their financial stress. So we sell their bigger home or their more expensive home and get them down to a more modest one where they can afford to go forward.
And we use our mortgage broker as well to help with that process. So we know, the numbers that we need to be dealing with, both, on the sale and purchase side of things. And once again, try and take all that stress away. That problem solving is just out there helping people be able to get on with their own lives without being too stressed out about these situations that they're in.
And the other one is, and it is out there, is that sometimes people want to make money. And that's fair game. Probably less of a thing that you can do at the moment with the housing market having come down significant in values, but more when it's going up in value. People will often buy a home that needs renovated, so they're buying it cheap. They'll renovate it and then they'll sell it. So often they'll use us to say, hey, what's a good home to use? What's a good area? They would ask for advice. What should we renovate? What shouldn't we, to maximise our sale price, to make some money along the way. they pay their fair tax, and they move to the next and the next and the next.
Yeah.
So they're your flippers, I guess you would say.
Flippers and speculators, they're all under the same boat. They're all trying to make money.
Yep.
So they're all trying to find either a section that's a good buy so they can make some money on a build, or they're trying to find a home that, you know, is in a good location that they can get at a fair price that they can renovate and know that they're going to make some money on it. And we help in that situation by giving them an appraisal on what a finished product would be worth.
Yep.
So then they work backwards what they think their renovation is going to cost. Obviously, how much money they want to try and make out of that transaction,
it's worth it.
and then whether it's worth it, and if it is, it's only worth it at this level, and then they'll put an offer in.
And I know there's a bit of bad press sometimes on people that do house flipping or do spec builds.
Yep.
But they're actually doing service in a couple of ways. If they're doing a spec build, they're providing more housing stock.
Yeah.
So if there's more houses available, that's going to keep a lid on prices. It's also going to put more availability into the rental market, which means that your rents come down, so it's cheaper for everyone to rent. But also if they're flipping a house, it stops a house being rented in a derelict manner, unhealthy to families. So they're renovating it, they're making a healthy homes compliant, and then it's being rented or sold to someone that wants to buy it.
That needs it.
So how's that not a good thing? So
it's a great thing.
That problem's that we're solving, and not just for those people that are making money. It's for people who are renting or people who want to get on there later.
I guess what we're saying here is that if you've got a problem, give Team Delaney a call and we're going to solve it.
That's it.
Right? We're your problem solvers in real estate.